Show. Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday, April the 1st. I wish this coronavirus was a April Fool's joke. Unfortunately, it is reality, and we are all stuck with it at the moment. And it is a bit frustrating. It has disrupted life around the world. It has caused families to say goodbye to loved ones. It has hurt businesses, affected jobs. It's not a joke, and the unfortunate situation that we're dealing with has not subsided so far, and it looks like we're going to be dealing with it for a little while longer, unfortunately. But that is the reality of what we're dealing with, and it is hard to believe it's already April, 2020, and today is a day that we wish we could just run around and play a bunch of jokes on each other, and it maybe is a day that you can still do that while social distancing. So if you're able to bring a little sunshine and a little light and laughter into the world today with a good April Fool's joke, kudos to you, hats off to you, because I think the whole world needs a little bit of that today. Last week, we didn't get to a story that we wanted to cover, and we're going to look at a little bit of it here at the top of the show today. It's a look at Gianni Infantino. He is the president of FIFA, the world governing body of soccer. And the caption says, hardly anyone batted an eyebrow when FIFA announced that a, quote, normalization committee, end quote, had been set up in Trinidad and Tobago. But the key question is this: could this be nothing but an act of revenge from Gianni Infantino? This is by Philippe Auclair. This was published on josemartfootball.com. In football governance, the procedure known as normalization usually follows a well-traveled route. A local FA encounters critical financial, political, or governance problems, contravening its own statutes in the process, as well as those of FIFA's, which then has no other choice than to suspend the administration in place and take over the running of its affairs. It is a depressingly common occurrence, which has affected countries as diverse as Uruguay, Benin, Kuwait, Argentina, Mali, Greece, and many others in the recent past. So depressingly common, in fact, that hardly anyone batted an eyelid when FIFA, following a fact-finding mission, which had taken place in February, added Trinidad and Tobago to the list of member associations under normalization on March 17th of this year. Trinidad and Tobago, the former playground of disgraced FIFA Panjandrum Jack Warner, not exactly a surprise, is it? This article goes on to talk about how, and we're going to get into some more details on this, but probably either later today or in the show or tomorrow, that Gianni's preferred candidate did not win an election, and he stepped in, and it paints Infantino in a bad light for sure. One of the things that I wanted to highlight here at the very top is this whole idea of normalization when it comes to FIFA. You can make the argument that the U.S. Soccer Federation is, if you were FIFA and you were really to dig in to FIFA and in its statutes, U.S. Soccer and its statutes, you could make the argument that U.S. soccer needed, at the very least, some heavy-handed guidance from FIFA. It's not coming from FIFA, and that was made clear in the Court of Arbitration and Sport case. So this situation with Trinidad and Tobago, as we're going to get into today, tomorrow, is a situation that is alarming in terms of FIFA's intervention in this case. It is also a situation where we look at our own federation and just see how much has been going wrong for so long. And it's what makes those who have been involved in leadership for so long, it's so disappointing that it's not a bold vision to change. There's not a big desire to change by and large from the leadership standpoint to correct the issues that we're seeing. We have all kinds of FIFA compliance issues, and it goes beyond that. It goes into just the culture of the federation, the culture of leadership, the internal structure of the federation, the membership, voting weight. There are all types of scenarios where the federation, if you were to get an organizational audit, it is just not running efficiently, and it's not running well, and it's not running for the benefit of all of its members. It is running for a select few members, and everyone else who is at or near the top are essentially in a situation where they are forced to go along, or they don't get a paycheck. It's an issue that goes beyond just one simple thing here. People think that there's one little fix to this federation. It's not. There's a lot of things that have to change, a lot of things that need to be corrected, a lot of things that, quite frankly, are disturbing, alarming. And we talk about those a lot on the show, and it's every time you go into, this committee, or you look at how this, project is run, or this program is administered, you see the overall culture and the overall issues plaguing the federation show themselves time and again. So it doesn't matter, if we get this one thing right, is it going to stay right without systemic change? And that requires, leadership change, and doubling down like we did recently with Will Wilson coming in from Wasserman Media Group and his deep ties with Don Garber and Soccer United Marketing and MLS. That's not a step in the right direction. That is, from an optics standpoint, that's doubling down on the aspects of the federation that need to be corrected. And so to bring in a leader from there and claiming that is where we need to go, that's troubling. And so it is all an issue to me, where we need to do better, we need to get better, etc. So we'll get into more of that either later in the show or tomorrow. Coming up here after the break, we're excited to have on the captain of our U.S. men's deaf national team, and Trip Neal is going to join us here in just a moment, and excited to learn about his story and learn about USA Deaf Soccer and what they're doing to bring the game and raise the game. And I heard him speak at the AGM in Nashville about a month and a half ago, and I wanted to bring him on for him to tell his story, as well as tell the story of his national team. So that's coming up right after the break. Our sponsor this half hour is Ductic Brand, DUKTIG brand.com. There's never been a better time to reorder if you already have some stock, or if you've never placed an order, to do that as well. Go to ducticbrand.com, place an order, use promo code DWShow. You'll get 10% off of that order. And you're sitting there going, well, what is he talking about? What order am I placing? You're going to go to ducticbrand.com and you're going to find great soccer journals, soccer coaching notebooks, resources, apparel. If you're serious about the game as a player or as a coach, a goalkeeper, whatever the case, you owe it to yourself to go to ducticbrand.com and buy you some of their waterproof paper. I mean, that alone. I know for some of you it might be hard to get outside, but for others, going to get stocked up for when you can get back outside. Do it today at ducticbrand.com. Use promo code DWShow. You'll get 10% off of your order. We'll be right back with Trip Neal after this. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in on this Wednesday, April the 1st. It is, like I said at the top of the show, it's a bizarre world we're living in at the moment, but we are all doing our best to stay alive and stay healthy and get through this. And just hope that that you're following all the government protocols and everything to stay healthy and stay safe out there, so that we can all come through this and be as healthy and as safe as possible. Our guest today, we're really excited to have on the show, is Trip Neal, and he is the captain of the U.S. Deaf Men's National Team. Trip, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thanks for having me, Daniel. I'm doing great.
So, you're from Dallas, Texas. Is that still where you're based out of?
Yep, born and raised here and settled down as well.
So, how are things out in Dallas? Before we get into all of our soccer talk, just to kind of give our audience a little bit of a 411 on the area. How's the area holding up in terms of the whole COVID-19 situation, and how has that impacted your daily life with everything going on around the country and quite frankly around the world?
Yeah, for sure. Dallas, I think, went into what they're calling a lockdown about 10 days ago. We've been kind of holed up in our house here for a little while, my wife and my 1-year-old daughter. So getting a little extra time with the family, which is not a bad thing. We stopped going to the stores and that sort of thing, kind of relying on Amazon to do its work. But it's been quiet, to say the least.
Now, I want to go back. You're from Dallas. You're still based out of there, but you grew up in a part of the country that has a soccer history, has had a soccer presence for a long time. Texas, California, places like that. What was your introduction to the game? Where did the connection to the sport of soccer come for you?
My father got me into the game when I was 4 years old. And our team name was called the Sidekicks, which he named after the professional indoor soccer team here in Dallas. Used to love going to those games growing up as a kid. So we had the same green jerseys that they had back when Union Arena was the home court for those guys.
So getting into the game and playing, what about the sport kept you connected and wanting to play it for a long time? I mean, you could have played any sport and stuck with it. What about the game of soccer really connected with you?
My father gave me kind of two mottos early on, which was, one, have fun, whatever you're doing, have fun, and then two, do your best. And so soccer was obviously fun for me at an early age, and it's fun when you're scoring goals and winning games. So that kind of happened at an early age for me, and fell in love with the game. Enjoyed going, like I said, to the Dallas Sidekicks games, and then love the competitive nature of the sport, competing to win and get better, whether that's by myself in my backyard or in practice or in games. So I've always loved that, and feel blessed, even at the ripe young age of 35, to still have two good legs and be able to play for the deaf national team.
So let's go through. Growing up, you played. Did you play in high school, and where did your introduction and connection to the U.S. Deaf Men's National Team program? Where did that connection come from later on?
Absolutely. So I joined a club team called the Comets, Comets 85. Here in Dallas, which has since morphed into the FC Dallas umbrella. All these club teams locally have kind of merged into some of the bigger clubs. My coach was a German by the name of Horst Bertel, and he did a good job of positioning us for college opportunities, whether that was the Disney Showcase, Dallas Cup, things like that nature. So we got some exposure there. I also went to some ID camps myself. Ended up getting an opportunity that I was in love with at Johns Hopkins University. And so played my freshman year at Johns Hopkins, and then it was during my sophomore year that I connected with a former deaf player on the Johns Hopkins University men's varsity team that wasn't playing when I was playing, but he connected with me and found out that I was deaf and introduced me to the deaf national team, invited me for a tryout in 2004. And then in January of '05, I was in Australia representing USA at the Deaf Olympics out there.
So, in terms of the deaf soccer program, what was it like getting to wear the jersey for the first time and kind of going to the Olympics for you? Had this been something that you dreamed about, or was this something like you learned about along the way? And describe that experience for us.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was a childhood dream of mine to play for the national team. Obviously, I didn't know there was a deaf national team, but yeah, I can remember, running extra sprints or taking extra shots, saying, "Oh, if I make this or if I run this last one, that'll give me a better chance to make the national team." I did ODP growing up, so that was fun to be a part of the Texas State ODP team. But yeah, once I got to acquainted with the deaf national team, I mean, we had I remember our first set of jerseys actually had our last name on it. So opening that from the wrap and getting to wear that and, just be around other USA deaf athletes at the Deaf Olympics, getting to watch deaf basketball and swimming and see what they're all about and travel around the world. It felt amazing, absolutely unbelievable. And the interesting part for me was, I wasn't born deaf. I became deaf when I was 1.5. Did some deaf school and speech therapy until kind of the kindergarten, first grade level. And then went mainstream. So this was my first introduction back into the deaf community and being a part of that and getting to re-engage and connect with that part of my life that I had kind of put aside for the time being there.
In terms of, I know, like with a Paralympic national team, I'm sure with the deaf national team, what are the I don't know if the word qualifications is the right word to use here. So, my question is, what qualifies someone to be, for example, on the deaf national team? I'm trying to not ask the stupid question here, but in terms of, is it a certain amount of loss of hearing? Is it full deafness? What are the requirements to be in the program and a part of the team?
It's a great question. They do a hearing test, just like they do drug tests at these competitions. And so obviously we screen our players ahead of time on the standard form that's required by the international governing body for the deaf sports world. The way that hearing test works is they only care about your better ear. So they'll test both ears, but the better ear is the one that needs to meet the threshold, right? And it's basically it's a frequency test. We've all taken those beat tests at the audiologist or wherever, and it's a frequency test across 3 different ranges of frequencies: 500, 1,000, and 1,500. Which, for layman's terms, it's low frequency, medium, and high frequency. And your average score across those three frequencies needs to be 55 decibels or worse, meaning higher. So on average, you need sound to be 55 decibels to be able to hear it audibly, to pick it up. But when we get into competition, what they do at the competition is they tell everyone if they have a hearing device, which some people are deaf to the point where hearing devices don't even help them. But if they do, they have to remove those hearing devices, quote, to level the playing field, so everyone's got those hearing devices removed. It's as if you're playing with earplugs in your ears. And it's a level playing field at that point in time.
So for you and your teammates, communication. How do you achieve that? And are there or have there been times with the way that you guys try to communicate with one another? Have there been times where that's proved difficult? Maybe certain environments, whether nighttime versus daytime or any of that. What kind of issues or challenges have you guys faced in the past when it comes to communicating as a team?
Yeah, communication is key in any sport, right? And we certainly have our challenges. So give you a makeup of the team, and this is true for the women's deaf national team as well, because we've got two programs under the Deaf Soccer Association. But most of the players rely on sign language, right? ASL. There's a handful of players like myself who just don't use ASL. We were able to get by with a hearing aid or cochlear implant and aren't engaged in the deaf community on a day-to-day basis where the ASL is retained. So sign language, visual cues are key. And then we've been very fortunate to have two amazing volunteers, one with the deaf men's team, which her name's Jackie Jones. She's based out of Pensacola, Florida, and the other is Amanda Newcomb with the Deaf Women's National Program. The two interpreters who literally they stand right next to the coach and interpret messages from the coach to the players and from the players back to the coach. And so every training camp we go to, every game, every practice, whatever it is, team meeting, they are there to help carry the message, the direction it needs to be carried. And then as players, we'll eye contact during the game, using arms, motioning where you're going to be, where you want the ball. Most of us, just because we don't have a strong sense of hearing, have developed stronger senses of visual cues and that sort of thing. And so we're able to kind of tell where someone might be or where the next best place to go with the ball might be. Yep.
So the structure in terms of playing, is when you guys go out to play and as the national team, are you playing 11v11, 7v7? What's the setup and how has the team fared over the last few years?
So we play 11v11. It's the exact same game you see on TV with the national teams, the hearing national teams, right? The only difference in our game, obviously, is all of our players can't wear hearing aids, so that they're all deaf on the field. And then the center, the referee, carries a flag instead of a whistle, so there's a visual cue for when to stop play. But in terms of how we've fared over the last few years, and quite honestly throughout history, it's almost exactly like the teams that you're familiar with, the women's national team and the men's national team. So on the men's side, we will pull off the greatest upset and just have the highest of highs, beat a team that we really don't have any business beating. And then we'll do a Trinidad and Tobago. We'll lose to a team that we have absolutely no business losing to. So we kind of ride through that wave. The best we've ever finished is fourth place in the 2008 Deaf World Cup. The big highlight there was beating an Italian team that had Serie B players on their team, so some professional soccer players on their team. We beat them in the quarterfinals, and which went into a shootout, overtime and a shootout, and then ended up losing to Turkey in the semifinals there. Had a goal called back in overtime and then lost to them in penalties. Turkey then went on to lose in penalties in the final. So we were kind of right there in 08. And then for the women's program, just like we expect our women's national team on TV, they're expected to win every game, and they actually have. So they've never lost an international match They've won 2 Deaf World Cups. They've won 3 Deaf Olympics. And they take care of business on and off the field. They're a well-run program. They find phenomenal deaf athletes to join their team. They're well coached. Amy Griffin is a former national team player. She was a national team goalie, a gold medal winner with the '91 squad. And Joy Fawcett, who's also in the Hall of Fame here in Dallas, is the assistant coach, and they know how to win the gold. So they're a well-run team. They set the standard for kind of what not only deaf soccer should look like, but deaf sports in our country.
So let's go there. Let's talk about USA Deaf Soccer and the Deaf Soccer Association. What is the makeup of the organization, and what is its status and role within the federation?
Sure. So we have a board. It's got 9 members on the board. 8 of the members are players, deaf players. So the guy who's handling our website is the deaf men's national team goalie. The guy who's handling the finances is a deaf forward. We've got the one person who's not deaf is a woman by the name of Suzanne Anderson. She came in and joined our board, all volunteers, 100%, came and joined our board back in 2018 after she had met the deaf women's national team at a training camp in, I think it was San Antonio, Texas. So kind of fell in love with the program and wanted to help out. And she had been involved as a CEO of Special Olympics, the Texas chapter of Special Olympics. So knows her way around a nonprofit and certainly how to help, those in need around the level of sport that they want to play and that sort of thing. So we've been blessed to have her. She's done a phenomenal job for our program. And so how we fit into the various organizations, including U.S. Soccer. So I guess I'll start at the top level. At the top level, there's the IOC, right, that everyone knows about for the Olympics and the hearing world. There's a deaf equivalent of that called the ICSD, International Committee of Sports for the Deaf. So underneath the IOC is the USOPC, US Olympics and Paralympic Committee that we all are aware of. And then on the deaf side, it's the USA Deaf Sports Federation, where all the deaf sports teams kind of roll up. So Deaf Soccer Association is a member of Deaf Sports Federation, which kind of sits at the same level as the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee on an org chart, if you will. We are also a member, like you pointed out, of US Soccer Federation. They've got bigger pockets and better resources that kind of help our specific needs in the soccer world. And so we sit on the at-large committee within the U.S. Soccer Federation. And we also have a seat on the Disability Soccer Committee. So not just deaf soccer, but there's obviously a lot of different soccer variations that engage and involve the disability athlete in that world. So very proud to be a part of U.S. Soccer and the Disability Soccer Committee. And those relationships that we've formed over the last 5 years have been beneficial to us in terms of finding players, finding locations to train, raising awareness for our program, and then hopefully at some point raising some funds to keep this thing going.
In terms of funding for USA Deaf Soccer, where does your funding come from? How do people join your organization? Is it all outside sponsors? Do the players themselves have to foot the bill? Like what is the financial setup and funding sources for the U.S. Deaf Soccer Association?
Yeah, we struggle like a lot of nonprofits. We struggle in that area. So all of our finances come from basically the players going out and fundraising with their network, their family, their friends, their communities. So we typically, like a typical cost to go to an international tournament for for a player is around $5,000 a player. That includes, all the air travel, the hospitality, the food, the facilities, the organizing that goes behind all that. It does not include, obviously, the time away from their jobs or families or school. But so there's a big hefty bill that's required to just be a part of the national team. Obviously, if we can keep that bill lower or eventually get to the point where we're covered, the pool of players that can participate will grow dramatically. So we have had an occasional sponsor or two, whether it's donating product, like Gatorade has given us some product. The Women's Sports Foundation has donated a little bit to our organization in the past. There has been a company, a coconut water company called Coco's Pure, that helped us foot the bill for the Deaf World Cup in 2012 in Turkey, with a donation. But we don't have anything reliable right now, and we're always looking and happy to partner up with people that want to be a part of our mission.
So, in terms of the national teams themselves, the deaf men's national team and the deaf women's national teams, are these officially recognized by the United States Soccer Federation as official national teams for the federation for concerning deaf sports?
So U.S. Soccer Federation has a program called the Extended National Team Program, which has beach, futsal, Paralympics. So we are not a part of the Extended National Team Program yet. Obviously, if we can become a part of that program, then we would qualify for money that's budgeted in the Extended National Team Program, which would be a tremendous boost for our program in terms of training camps and travel for these international tournaments that we play in. But they do give us some recognition in the sense that our accomplishments that we have as we go to these tournaments. We get some social media support. A lot of the athletes have been welcoming. We don't have an official seat on the Athletes Council, but they've been very open to allowing me to be a part of that process and engage with the athletes. Getting a chance to get our message out through a louder voice, if you will. So that's been very opening and welcoming on that level. But obviously, the dream would be to become an extended national team where we're fully backed by U.S. Soccer.
What is the holdup there in terms of having deaf soccer and the deaf national teams be a part of the extended national team programs? Why hasn't this happened already? Is, I guess, my first question. And what is the holdup in terms of procedures to making this a reality?
It's an excellent question. We've asked it many times ourselves. And I'll try to give you the best answer I can. It kind of depends on who you ask. But we are not under the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. We're under the Deaf Sports Federation. And so there's an act that was a congressional act called the Ted Stevens Sports and Amateur Act that requires any national governing body for an Olympic sport to support the Paralympics as well. There are rumors as to whether the draft version included Deaf Olympics, which would have been a blessing for us if it had in the final version. And it didn't. And so we're kind of cast out on the side a little bit there. Deafness isn't quite as noticeable a disability as some of the other disability soccer groups that are out there. Just from watching visually, you can't tell if someone's deaf necessarily. And FIFA has not formally recognized us, though they've acknowledged kind of the deaf sports world and acknowledged kind of the different tournaments, the Deaf World Cup and the Deaf Olympics. So because the Olympic bodies and the FIFA body hasn't formally recognized us, there's been no push for U.S. soccer to formally recognize us. It's not to say they can't do it. They can. It's just a question of getting in front of the right people and getting enough of those right people to agree that this is the right step. From their perspective, they have to be careful too, because if someone just decides, hey, we're going to be a national team, please add us to the extended national team budget and line. For example, I'm making this up, but if there was a senior national team, the 65 and like you see senior golfers in the senior tour or tennis tour or whatever the case may be, then all of a sudden some seniors pull together a team and decide, hey, we're going to be a national team and go compete in senior World Cups. You need to fund us. It's a little different story. So I think that progress right now is being made around what defines an extended national team. There is no written definition, though the teams that have fit into that category have kind of checked the FIFA box or the Olympic Committee box, if you will. So we're fighting, we're working on it, and we hope that at some point in the near future we'll be a part of that program, because I know there's a lot of folks within U.S. Soccer across their entire federation, as well as particularly within the Athletes Council, who would love to see that happen for us.
So in terms of a procedure within the federation, have you been told what the actual process would be for the deaf national team programs to be officially recognized and welcomed into the extended national team program? Is this a bylaw change, I'm assuming, rather than a policy change? Is it a decision by the board? Have you gotten any specific direction in terms of the process of how the deaf national teams would be included and added to the extended national team program?
We have not been given kind of the legal map on how to formally do that. Greg Fike, who kind of helped us become a member of U.S. Soccer Federation 5 years ago, has said that he would be willing to help us figure out that map, but we don't have that map yet. No, we've been asking for that.
All right, Greg, if you're watching, you know that you got a phone call to make. I spent some time talking to Greg at the U.S. Soccer AGM and just about some different issues and picking his brain, and he was a good sport about my devil's advocate positions and my probing to try to figure out, process. He understands the U.S. soccer governance and rules so well. So I was trying to pick his brain about different scenarios for different organizations or, maybe a restructuring of different rules or bylaws, policies, etc. So you're talking to the right guy within the federation. So maybe we need to prod him along in helping you guys navigate that process. You got up and spoke at the U.S. Soccer AGM, and I felt like it was a very moving moment from the floor of the AGM, talking about your program and your teams and representing, the USA Deaf Soccer Association, and just kind of sharing, the status of your program and your wishes for the program. What was the response you received from members of the federation who were present at the AGM in terms of the things that you said, and were they aware? Were some of them aware of the issues that you guys are dealing with, and what was their response to that moment?
Generally speaking, everybody was interested in helping out. And kind of came by after the meeting there and said, good luck in your upcoming events. And I know there were a handful of folks that were a little curious as to why we weren't already a part of the extended national team platform that U.S. Soccer has, because that's our goal right now, is to become a part of that extended national team platform and qualify for some of those funds that they set aside to support those programs. So a couple of good things actually transferred down the road for us after that speech. Someone from, I think it's the Las Vegas Lights. I can't remember the exact club name. I think it's a UPSL club that's out in Las Vegas. General manager attended the AGM and immediately put us in contact, or put his deaf player in contact with us, rather. So we've got a very talented, I think it's a 21 or 22-year-old kid that is going to attend the next U.S. Deaf men's national team tryout, which that kind of a level of player is someone who will probably immediately compete for a starting position on our team. So getting our word out was valuable, and generally speaking, the response from the members has been nothing but support and positivity.
So in regards to getting the next step, in terms of making that progression into part of the extended national teams, if there was a U.S. Soccer member, maybe someone in the audience, maybe someone listening to this show, watching this show, how could they help you? How could they get involved and help U.S. Deaf Soccer and the men's and women's national teams and help you guys? Maybe it's becoming a part of the extended national team program. Maybe it's just helping from a volunteer or fundraising standpoint. How can they get involved to help you guys continue to accomplish your mission?
Yeah, we've got a couple of different ways that we look for. Obviously, becoming a part of the extended national team would help cover a big burden on our end, which has always been the financial aspect of it. If folks are interested in supporting us financially, we've got a website, www.usdeafsoccer.com, and you can find out more information on our program and make donations that way. But there's other ways to help too. So, a lot of clubs don't know about us, and so spreading the word about who we are, spreading the word to players, whether they're hearing or deaf, is valuable, because if a hearing player knows of a deaf player, they're able to identify that player and put them in touch with our online platform or through email, whatever it is. So raising our player pool has been a big push on our end. And then there's ways to host us too. We train all over the country a couple times a year. So we've had clubs in the USL League. We've had MLS clubs that have hosted us. We've had local clubs that have offered to host us and just provide facilities or hospitality or meals or equipment, training equipment, whatever the case may be. We're always looking for those opportunities, because, as I mentioned, everything is funded by the players and their networks. To make this thing run, and until we have a deep pocket sponsor or partner that can help us do that, we rely on the volunteers and the soccer community, grassroots community to kind of help us with that.
In terms of the Ted Stevens Act, that is the big kind of sports governing act in this country, especially when it comes to the sport of soccer. It has a big influence through the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. We talked a little bit about this in terms of its impact of not having deaf soccer as part of the extended national team program and in the Olympic situation, because it's not actually inside of the Ted Stevens Act. If there was a senator or a representative who wanted to take another look at the Ted Stevens Act and finding some improvements in terms of getting deaf soccer as part of that amateur sports act and getting I guess, a way for you guys to kind of be included with that whole process a little easier. What people would they want to or need to try to get in touch with? Is it usdefsoccer.com? Is it people there? Like, how would they, if there was somebody from one of those senators' offices or whatever, and of course, like right now, everything's crazy with the coronavirus, and they're just trying to keep the world afloat and the country afloat. But when this settles down, we get back to real life and normal life in terms of day-to-day activities. I think there's an opportunity for this Ted Stevens Act to get revisited and revised and reformed. It has been in the past. What recommendations would you have there in terms of getting U.S. deaf soccer included or part of that conversation?
That would be a wish for us, a dream, if we could become a part of that Ted Stevens Act. And it's at a higher level than the soccer level. It would be at the U.S. Deaf Sports Federation level, which oversees all of the different deaf sports in our country, that sends teams to their various Pan American Games and World Championships and Deaf Olympics. So, if there's a line in that act that talks about how the NGB for that particular Olympic or Paralympic sport, so in soccer's case, that would be USSF, is kind of mandated and required to support the Olympic and Paralympic teams. Obviously, if we included Deaf Olympic in that line, then that would put a little bit more pressure on the various NGBs, USA Basketball, USA Hockey, US Soccer, to step up in their support of the various deaf sports that wear the red, white, and blue and represent our country and go through the exact same training programs and competitions and sacrifices that you see from the folks on TV. So that would be tremendous if we could become a part of that Ted Stevens Act, and would welcome any conversation with senators or representatives. And Deaf Sports Federation has a website as well. So USA Deaf Sports Federation, you can find that online and get in touch with the board members at that group as well.
In terms of your career, you've been playing with the deaf men's national team for a while, and you're the current captain. Looking at your career and kind of a bit of nostalgia here for the audience, what are you most proud of with your career, and how do you see your career going forward with the U.S. Deaf men's national team?
I'm first and foremost just proud to have been a part of it, be able to wear the red, white, and blue, go represent my country on a world stage. I've had the opportunity to meet just some really fantastic and interesting teams and people. Been all over the world. Been to Melbourne, Australia, Taipei, Taiwan. Got to shake the president of Taiwan's hand at part of the Deaf Olympic opening ceremonies ordeal there, where U.S. soccer played Ireland in the first Deaf Olympic sporting event for that Deaf Olympics. Had a chance to go to Venezuela. We just got back from Chile in November, where a longtime dream of mine, which was just winning a medal for our men's national team program, was finally achieved. We won the gold medal in Chile by beating Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, and Chile. Probably something no other U.S. soccer team at any level can say they've done, 4-0 back-to-back against those countries. So very, very proud of that. Obviously, my chapters are few, given my age right now, and that's a good thing, because we've got some young talent that are stepping up. We've got a young player from the Idaho Nationals program up in Idaho that actually we found him through an AGM event as well when his state representative put us in touch, a guy by the name of Bill Taylor there. So he's a young kid that's stepping into the fold. We've got this other young kid in Vegas that we're excited about. And I know my time as captain is probably up as well. We've talked to the coaches who subbed me out of the last game in Chile, and we've identified a center back on our team who's been a solid player. His name's Will Frentz. He's also a board member, so very involved in the organization and has been a part of it since I think '08 when we went to the Deaf World Cup in Greece. So excited about his opportunity as captain. And for me, the last two events on my end are going to be the South Korea Deaf World Cup, which we're waiting to hear more information on due to coronavirus and that whole deal, but is scheduled to be in September of this year. And then the Deaf Olympics next year in December, which are being held in Brazil. So the highlight has obviously been wearing the red, white, and blue, but it's also seeing the impact that this sport has had on the deaf athletes around the world and around our country. Some of the folks that we've had on our team have never even traveled out of state. And when you see the look on their face when they get a chance to go down to Chile and play for their country, it is nothing but joy and pride. And these kids work really hard at representing their country to the best they can. And so we're a very proud program. It's a very close-knit program. Everyone's family stays in touch very well, even though we don't train as often as we'd like to. And I can't wait to see what the future generation brings to the program as more and more people get involved and help raise awareness and grow our player pool, both on the men's side and the women's side. So, very, very excited future.
Well, Trip, thanks for coming on the show and kind of talking about the program. How can people learn more information and obviously connect with the deaf national teams, follow you guys in terms of your tournaments and your matches, your competitions, etc.?
Yeah, we try to centralize everything on our website. So usdeafsoccer.com. And we've got social media handles across most of our platforms, which you can find on our website. So that's Twitter and Instagram and those sorts of things, Facebook. And that's probably the best resource to stay up to date in terms of what we have going on with both programs, the women's deaf national team and the men's deaf national team. And then hopefully in the future, we'll be able to grow a youth deaf national team to compete in the Youth Deaf Olympics that's coming down the road, and then grow our player pool for our national team program that way.
Well, fantastic stuff. Best of luck with that as well. Look forward to having you back on again soon to talk about some of that project, as that sounds pretty exciting as well. Trip, thanks for your service to the country and captaining our U.S. Deaf men's national team, and best of luck. I hope those events stay on the calendar for you so you can go out with a bang later this year.
Thank you, Daniel, for having me on and for providing this fantastic opportunity and platform to share about our nonprofit organization and give us a louder voice than we have. So really, really, really appreciate you doing that for us.
Appreciate it. Anytime. Thanks for coming on the show.
Take care.
All right, bye. That is Trip Neal, captain of the U.S. Deaf men's national team. We'll be right back after this.
No one, no man, no woman, no child should ever have to drink green water with bugs, with algae, with disease in it. Bad water and a lack of toilets kills more people than all the wars in the world. We know how to bring clean drinking water right now to every single person on earth. And when you can bring water into communities, it truly transforms them. It changes everything. Right? You could know that you'd made a difference. You could know that you had truly impacted the life of a family, of a community, of a region. There was either clean water or there wasn't. We believe in a world where every single person has clean and safe water to drink, and we will continue fighting until that happens.
Thanks for watching. Thanks to Trip Neal for joining the show. Appreciate it. Look forward to following his end of his career, as he talked about there at the end, as he looks to wrap up his captaincy and also his playing career with the Deaf Men's National Team. You can learn more about USA Deaf Soccer at usdeafsoccer.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see everyone again tomorrow.